Ladies and gentlemen, Republicans, I'm Bill Wolf, the current president of the Columbia Pachyderms, and it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Back in that end? Okay. Dr. Jean Howard Hill, who is over here at this table. I had the pleasure of hearing Jean when she served on the national panel, along with other African and American and Hispanic leaders at the Pachyderm National Conference last June. The panel discussion was the broad topic of the inclusion of minorities as Republicans. Listening to her, I decided to invite her to this supper as our keynote speaker. She was clear and enthusiastic in her discussions and passionate in her beliefs. With the help of Holly Lindner, Executive Secretary of the National Pachyderm, we got lucky. Thank you, Holly. Dr. Howard has a resume as long as my arm, and there isn't time to even read it. But to list a few, she held positions as the head of several national and international organizations. She is the chair of the National Republican African American Caucus with state and county chapters throughout the United States. She's running for Congress from the 3rd District in Tennessee and has this to say: I've been in the race in previous years to bring attention for the need for qualified African American Republicans to be afforded full participation and opportunities within the Republican Party. She created and implemented a nonpartisan civics program, Democracy in Action, which provides elementary, middle, and high school students the opportunity to learn about how government operates. The election process and good citizenship are very important to her. Dr. Jean and her daughter, who is here at the table with her, are releasing findings from a 5-year Youth Out of Crisis research study, which puts a face and a story behind the dire statistics of this generation of youth. She is best yet known as the Pull Up Your Pants professor for her role at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, for encouraging young African men to pull up their pants and dress for success. That deserves applause. She is in agreement with George Parker's call for civility in politics and in everyday discourse. She believes that we need to set examples for our youth in civility and integrity in all phases of life. They're watching us, and how we lead is how they will lead. She says we must revive the dream of America and distinguish ourselves as a party and a nation that can civilly sit down at the national table and come up with solutions to resolve the problems of our nation. The world sees us as a global leader, and we must rise to and go beyond what is expected of us. But first, we must become one American. Dr. Jean, please come up.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, since you all want to talk to me, put your arms out. Okay. Now, follow the instructions. Both arms. Just because I have one, I have the mic in my arm. Okay, I want you to bring it in. Bring it up. No, both arms. I'm giving you a hug. Thank you so much, Dr. Bill, for that introduction. I told him, I said, please don't say anything except for here's Jean. So he was supposed to have done that. You know, I don't know what it is about coming to Missouri, but each time I come to Missouri, something always happens. The last time we got to maybe about 20 miles to St. Charles, and after I had the service, the car serviced, the car stopped on us. So we ended up being here for 2 days extra after the Pachyderm National Conference. This time, I sprained my ankle, thought I broke my toe, and yesterday I was frantically going around trying to find a dentist because I broke my tooth. And so just in case I get a little excited up here and begin to really, really talk, I want everybody to know that, yes, I know my tooth is broken. I just want to take a few minutes, and I don't want to talk tonight about, when you're a little height challenged, you don't care too much for a podium. I didn't come here tonight to talk politics. I think we've had enough of that. I didn't come here to debate because I think we've had enough of that. But what I came here tonight to do is to encourage Republicans, to be Republicans. And by that I mean we have branded ourselves as a party that truly loves America. Is that right? We have also branded ourselves as a party that loves God. So when you put those two together, we're a party that loves God and country. With that comes responsibility. When you start talking about you love America and you love God, there comes the responsibility. And I believe that rather than looking at the negative things about America, I truly believe that we are living in a day where the Republican Party has a rare opportunity to stand and shine. We have an opportunity to show our love for country and for God. Not talking it, because it's very easy to talk it. It's very easy to get up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's very easy to do a ceremonial prayer. Right now, I'm on a 40-day prayer. And I think we're in the 13th day today. 40 days of praying for this country. And I believe that as Republicans, we say we love God. And we say that we follow godly principles. And I want to encourage and challenge each of us, including me, to take those godly principles to the workplace. And more importantly, to exercise those godly principles in government. I believe that America is in the shape that it is right now because we haven't always done what we were supposed to do as it relates to God. How many of you pray for America every day? Now this one I'm going to really get some quiet people, and I've already told my daughter and my son-in-law, I said, make a way for me 2 ways, there and there. How many of you pray for your president every day? How many of you pray for your Congress every day? This is one of the reasons why our country is not where it should be. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat in office. The Bible says, pray for those who are in leadership. And I had this discussion as an African-American Republican some years back when President Bush was president, and we were having a citywide revival. And I asked one of the preachers, I said, would you pray, ask for prayer, so will you allow a time in the revival tonight where that we can actually pray and lift up President Bush. At that particular time, he was getting ready to make a decision as to whether or not to deploy troops. And they would not allow it. It was wrong not to pray for President Bush, and it is wrong not to pray for President Obama. Because God is not interested in whether or not somebody is a Republican or a Democrat. He said pray for leadership. And if you pray for leadership, if leadership is not doing what they should do, they will get online with where they should or give them. But we don't pray. Now, you may not like my message, but this is the message that God gave me to give. Because I love my country. And I've gotten to the point now where that my mind is solely on God. I want to please you first. And no, I'm not saying this because Obama happens to be a man of color. But I'm saying it because we have to get into a position where if we're talking about God, then we have to do what God is saying. Our Congress. We have some of the lowest ratings of our Congress, but how many of you pray and ask God to give members of Congress wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to do what they need to do? It's time. It's time. And so when we say we love country and we love God, it doesn't fit. Because the God that I serve and the God that I know can make a senator do right, can make a congressperson do right, can make the President of the United States do right if we put prayer behind them. And we can do all the talking that we want to, but until we start praying for our governors, our state legislators, our mayors of cities, and begin to say, God, we need leadership. And if that person is not leading us, give us the wisdom and knowledge and understanding to know what to do to cause that person to either get online or to be removed. And I'm saying this because I work with the younger generations. And I was never so disturbed in teaching an American government class. And I do what is called political socialization. And I cook a meal for all of my students, and I have them do a card, and they tell me about where they came from, who their parents are, what their political affiliations and all of those things are. And I was never so shocked in those conversations with my students to hear them say, we don't care to be Democrats or Republicans because we're just tired of the bickering, the partisan bickering. We're tired of the gridlock. And we just want to see a government that will do something for the people. And when I heard that, I had to go back and re-examine myself and ask, am I a part of the problem? Or am I a part of the solution? And we talk a lot about God. We say God created the whole earth, and we go to church and we sing how great thou art, and we talk about all the things that God has done. And then when we come to America, we look at America and we don't seem to believe that God can even change the economy. We don't believe that God can change the atmosphere in Washington, D.C. Yes, it's bad. I'm going to hear a lot. And yes, it is. But as Republicans, we owe it to ourselves to begin to practice what we say we believe in. And if we practice what we say we believe in, things have to change. And when we have a nation so divided that we can't even come up with a good piece of legislation, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Something is wrong, because this ought to be about one America. And on the national scene, we're divided. We're two houses. And it's okay to have a left and a right. But I challenge any one of you to rise to your feet and put your right foot down and take 10 feet forward on your right foot. We have got to come back to a point where we love America so much. We love America so much that we're willing to hurt for her. We're willing to pray for her. We're willing to stand up for what is right for her. We have the principles in this party. We have the right ideas. ideas in this party. But we have to take those ideas and take them to the table in such a way that we're using civility. So when all we can do is sit at a table and argue and debate, arguing and debating is not always bad. Because that's how we arrive at different agreements, sitting down and hashing out things. But at some point in time, if we truly love America, we have to walk away from that table with some solutions and with the right way. And just like we talk about, how many of you believe in that you have a purpose for which you were born? Okay, some of you don't. Well, just like you have a purpose for which you were born, so does America. America is a leader in the global community. She is someone that when the rest of the world, the rest of the nations look at her, they envy her. They envy her because of her greatness, her stability, who she is, who she has become. And for a long time, she was one of the youngest nations, but she has arisen to be the greatest nation. And we have to do what is necessary to make sure that America stays the strong nation that she is, the nation that people look to. And they look to America because they always believe that America will come forth and do the right thing. And so when we see other nations now looking at America and mocking her, because we can't seem to get anything done, it ought to bother you. And that alone ought to cause you to drop down on your knees before you go to bed every night and say, God, do something in America. God, we need you in Congress. We need you to raise up godly men and women to go and legislate. Not just those who campaign on the God thing. I'm so sick of it, I don't know what to do. Everybody knows God when they're running for office. But when they get there, they seem to forget about God. We ought to hold them responsible. You ought to ask your legislators. You ought to ask, are you praying? Before you went in and introduced the bill, did you pray over that bill? Did you say, God, is there everything in this bill that needs to be? Did you ask him for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to write the bill? See, this is something that we're not talking about. We go to church and we leave all that church stuff right there on Sunday or Sabbath. And then we come out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we say we're Republicans. But it's a practical gospel. It is one in which we have to get back to. And if we don't get back to that, God is holding us responsible. Where much is given, much is required. And if we're the party who has the much, we're saying we have the idea, we have the right way, we're standing as a moral party. And thank God for the Republican Party. Thank God for the position that the Republican Party takes on moral issues. But we have to do more than just take a position. We have to live it and practice it. So that when people look at the Republican Party leadership, they don't see backroom deals that are being made and cut. They don't see the bickering. They don't see the backbiting. They don't see all the ugliness. But what they see are truly godly people who love God and love country. Someone asked me, said, would you ever leave America and go live someplace else? And my answer was no. I love America. I love America. And I think that each one of us here can say, we love America. And I think that if we ask each other about our God, we will say, we love our God. Divine purpose. America has a divine purpose. She is a light. For a long time, she was like a light that set on a city, on a hill. People could see the good. They could see where America was going. But now, you go outside of the country and you tell a person you're an American, and they actually hate you. And they're not hating us for the good. There was a time there was jealousy, but it's no longer for the good. And so I challenge the Republican Party. And I've heard such great things about Missouri. And I've sort of fallen in love with the state of Missouri. And I believe that you are leaders in this. You are leaders in letting your light shine. No matter where it is. And above all, having wisdom. Wisdom. If you want to know what can get us out of the economic crisis that we're in right now, it's called wisdom. If you want to know what can cause things to shift back the way that they used to be, it's wisdom. Having the wisdom to know how to drive something in a certain direction. Women, you know what I'm talking about. When you want your husband to do something, you have wisdom enough to get him to do it. And he doesn't even know he's doing it. And he loves to do it. Because you're using wisdom to get things done. Wisdom. Not craftiness, but wisdom. And if we would do this, we're going to see a change in America. And I'm going to ask you this. How many of you are committed? If you're not able to pray every day, which I don't understand why you couldn't be able to pray every day. You talk every day. But can I get anyone in this room to be committed to pray for America once a week? Who can I get? It's time, because whether you believe it or not, we're not going to be here always. And things are winding up. And there are many things that are happening now in the global communities that is telling us, we talk about the soon coming of Christ. Well, if you look far enough or further enough in what's going on, you see signs of this thing winding up. And America has a role to play in all of this. And we have to make sure that America is ready. America is in position to do that. That she becomes that light that says to a country, we don't believe in God. America stands up and says, not only do we believe in God, but in God we trust. In God we commit our well-being. In God we commit our country, our safety. In God we commit our laws. Because we want a stable America. And I don't apologize for talking God. Couldn't do this with a lot of audience. And this is one of the things that I love about my party. You can talk about God without someone turning their chair around and saying, we don't believe that, or why are you bringing this God thing in? Because America was birthed by God for a purpose. She didn't just get here. We're not just here. You're not in America just because you're in America. It was purpose before the foundation of the earth that you should be an American. So let's stand up and be Americans. And let's stand up and not only be Americans and love America, but let's stand up and love God. And let's let the love of God shine in us in such a way that we are kind one to the other. And even if we disagree, we do it in such a way that we don't have to be enemies. And I'm sure the senator will tell you that a lot of the bickering that you see here, I've been on the Hill and I've seen people on television at each other, and then they're out at dinner laughing and talking. Democrats to the Republicans. Because at some point in time, you got to realize we are sisters and brothers. And that is the only party, is the Republican Party where God has people, then America is in really bad shape. But God has people everywhere. And so again, I challenge us. Let's build a strong America. Let's build an America with integrity, with honesty, civility. An America that just does not talk about freedom, liberty, and justice for all, but actually practices that. An America that does not talk just about morality, but actually are examples of moral living, good living. Because good living produces good things. Let's not just talk about God and country, but let's be willing to allow the God that is in us to radiate and to cause others to see the God in this party. And if we do that, we can say, God bless America. Because God will be more than pleased to bless America. For it is God's good pleasure to bless her. It is His good pleasure to prosper her. But it also should be our good pleasure to do what is right. Thank you so much. I'm not going to hold you any longer because the night is long, and I believe that when you said what you need to say it and sit down. And I just want to say to each one of you, I love you, and you don't have to get this message tonight. It may take tomorrow night. It may take next week. It may take next month. It may take next year. It may take, well, I'm not going to say never. But get it. Get it. Because when we get this message, we're going to see the Republican Party arise to a level of greatness that we have never seen before. Because we have an opportunity to show forth that we are the God Party. We may not be the only God Party. That's okay. We're not worried about the other party. But let us do what we need to do. I love you so much. Thank you so much.